Aloha, namaste. My name is Janapati Das, and welcome again to another series of the Krishna book readings. Please accept my respects and let me offer my respectful obeisances unto my Gurudev. And we will begin with our hearing and chanting of Krishna's names. So please join along. Swarupananda Paramaham Haribol, Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, welcome again. We are in the middle of the story of Muchukunda, King Muchukunda praying to Lord Krishna. And we left off actually at the very end of his prayer to Krishna. And he was making some very good points, of course, about the illusory nature of material life and how much he had been raptured and wrapped up in the attainment, the useless attainment for material wealth and material fame, which is really what material life is all about. And it's not what it really should be about, but it is what most people engage in. The real purpose of our life actually is to come to know spiritual knowledge about our true identity and our relationship with the Supreme Lord, and how we can get out of this material world instead of continually engaging and sort of cycling in the samsara, birth and death, over and over again. He said, my dear Lord, you are so merciful that in spite of my being reluctant to associate with your great devotees, you have shown your extreme mercy upon me as a result of my slight contact with pure devotee like Gargamuni. By your causeless mercy only have I lost all my material opulence, my kingdom, and my family. I do not think that I could have gotten rid of all these entanglements without your causeless mercy. So this is actually Krishna's mercies abound. It's not just, good things that happen to you materially, like it's very commonly thought about in many religions, that God is sort of an order supplier, waiter, granting us everything we want in this life. But actually the bad things that happen to us are also his mercy, as is the case of Lord Indra, who lost his sort of sense of who he really was in his position, and caused great offenses against Krishna and his devotees by raining hail and rain and thunderstorms on the residents of Vrindavan for Krishna taking his offering and offering it to Govardhan Hill. And Krishna actually saw that as an opportunity to chastise his devotee, which is Krishna's causeless mercy, because oftentimes, many times in this world, we get caught up in the illusory energy of Maya Devi and tend to think, of I, me, mind, I, me, mine. This is my house, this is my job, this is my, mine, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and being very self-centered and selfish, and not realizing that actually our purpose on this earth is to come and understand our relationship with Krishna, and that all things belong to Krishna. Krishna will give us the opportunity for things to come into our possession that we can use in his service, which is is his mercy. And Muchukunda here is making that point, that it was because of the causeless mercy that he was able to come in contact with the pure devotee of Krishna, one, and that he lost all of his opulences in his family, so he went in service of the demigods. And by that, during that time, everything that was his, it was such a long period of time, everybody died and his kingdom was gone, and there was new kings and whatnot by the time he was finished. So it was actually by Krishna's mercy, because then he was able to get the benediction to go to sleep and then come in contact with with Krishna, right? In this case, I do not think I could have gotten rid of all these entanglements without your causeless mercy. Kings and emperors accept the life of austerity to forget the royal condition of life, but by your specialist causeless mercy, I have already been bereft of the royal condition. Other kings exert themselves to get out of the attachment of kingdom and family by acceptance of the hardship of renunciation. But by your mercy, I do not need to become a mendicant or to practice renunciation. My dear Lord, I therefore pray that I may simply be engaged in rendering transcendental loving service unto your lotus feet, which is the ambition of the pure devotees who are freed from all kinds of material contamination. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you can offer me anything I want, including liberation. But who is such a foolish person that after pleasing you, he would ask from you something which might be the cause of entanglement in this material world? So this is true, an intelligent man would not ask for more material benefits from God. Many people, they pray to God for wealth and money and power, which is really foolish because it's just something that keeps people entangled in the material world. Unless you have a lot of intelligence and understand that these things are not they're just temporarily in your possession and you can use them. And there are stories in here where actually great devotees who had money were not attached to it, like King Yudhisthira was able to. He had a huge wealth, but he was never attached to anything that he had. In fact, when it was time for him to go off and leave the kingdom to his son, and he just left. He walked out, took off all the robes, and went out barefoot, him and his brothers, into the forest to meditate. The other example is Sudama Brahman. He was given wealth, but he never was attached to it in a way that a materialist would be. He always utilized it in the service of Krishna's service, and he was never attached to it. So that when the time of death came, he was not beleaguering or bemoaning, I should say. I'm trying to think of the right word, but anyways, missing his wealth and oh, woe is me, I'm going to die, and all the things I had, which is the common stress out for people when they have to leave this world. I do not think any sane man would ask such a benediction from you. I therefore surrender unto you, because you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the super soul living in everyone's heart, and you are the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Moreover, you are also this material world, because this material world is only the manifestation of your external energy. Therefore, from any angle of vision, you are the supreme shelter for everyone. Everyone, either in the material plane or in the spiritual plane, must take shelter under your lotus feet. I therefore submit unto you, my Lord. For many, many births I have been suffering from the threefold miseries of this material existence, and I am now tired of it. I have simply been impelled by my senses, and I was never satisfied. I therefore take shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of all peaceful conditions of life, and which can eradicate all kinds of lamentation caused by material contamination. My dear Lord, you are the supersoul of everyone, and you can understand everything. Now I am free from all contamination and material desire. I do not wish to enjoy this material world, nor do I wish to take advantage of merging into your spiritual effulgence, nor do I wish to meditate upon your localized aspect of Paramatma, for I know that simply by taking shelter of you, I shall become completely peaceful and undisturbed. On hearing this statement of King Muchukunda, Lord Krishna replied, My dear king, I am very much pleased with your statement. You have been the king of all the lands on this planet, but I am surprised to find that your mind is now freed from all material contamination. You are now fit to execute devotional service. I am most pleased to see that although I offered you the opportunity of asking for me any kind of benediction, you did not take advantage of asking for material benefit. I can understand that your mind is now fixed in me, and it is not disturbed by any material fault. The material qualities are three, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. When one is placed in the mixed material qualities of passion and ignorance, he is impelled by various kinds of dirtiness and lusty desires to try to find comfort in this material world. When he is situated in the material quality of goodness, he tries to purify himself by performing various kinds of penances and austerities. When one reaches the platform of a real Brahmana, he aspires to merge into the existence of the Lord. But when one desires simply to render service unto the lotus feet of the Lord, that is transcendental to all these three qualities. The pure Krishna conscious person is therefore always free from all material qualities. My dear king, I offered to give you any kind of benediction just to test how much you have advanced in devotional service. Now I can see that you are on the platform of the pure devotees because your mind is not disturbed by any kind of greedy or lusty desires of this material world. The yogis who are trying to elevate themselves by controlling the senses and who meditate upon me by practicing the breathing exercises of pranayama are not so thoroughly freed from material desires. It has been seen in several cases that as soon as there is allurement, such yogis again come down to the material platform. The vivid example verifying the statement is Vishvamrita Muni. Vishvamrita Muni was a great yogi who practiced pranayama, a breathing exercise. But still, when he was visited by Menaka, a society woman of the heavenly planet, he lost all control and begotten her a daughter named Shakuntala. But the pure devotee Haridas Thakur was never disturbed, even when all such allurements were offered by the prostitutes. So that's a very famous and wonderful story of Haridas Thakur, the devotee and disciple of Lord Chaitanya, who was basically, his great holiness was created quite a bit of envy among the Hindu Brahmins in the community, who were kind of demoniac, actually very demoniac, because they couldn't see the pure devotee, and also by the Muslims, who were basically getting petitioned by these Hindu Brahmins to. It's like they hate the Hindu Brahmins and the Muslims that would hate each other, really, because the Muslims invaded India. But they would cut a deal to basically, or try to kill the devotees of Krishna, real devotees, that is. And so they made a plan to send a prostitute to Haridas Thakur. And you probably know this whole story, but basically the prostitute came and showed her legs and was trying to be all sexy and everything to stimulate, lusty desires in Haridas Thakur, so that this great saint would actually be ridiculed in society. But Haridas Thakur, of course, was completely controlled. His senses were completely controlled. And he said, I will satisfy your desires when I've finished all my rounds and my practices, my meditation practices. Little did they know that they satisfied the desires was not the lusty desires, but was actually spiritual desires that are underlying all the lusty desires. Lust in this material world is a perverted reflection of our love for Krishna, and it's lost. And that's really what we're seeking. So that, he was chanting, and she paid her obeisances to the Tulsi plant, and sat and listened to her chanting, and she kept coming back, and he kept saying, okay, I promise, but by the third day she was already chanting with him, and then she felt in her heart Krishna telling her, to basically explain the situation to Haridas. That I'm sent by the Brahmins to try to trick you into having sex with me, and Haridas Thakur said, I knew that you were coming because Krishna told me that you were coming, and I was going to leave this place, but knowing that you were going to come, I wanted to save you. And this is the aspect of, so this woman who was a prostitute actually ended up becoming a great saint. She stayed there, she became a mendicant and celibate, and people went to her, and she was a great spiritual master because of the mercy of Haridas Thakur and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. So this is a very wonderful story about the mercy and the compassion of the devotee of Krishna, who cares about all living beings, but especially those who are the most fallen, and that's most of us. 99% of the population on this planet is in a dire state. Some are worse than others, and they're all lost children of God, and what's very pleasing to Krishna is bringing these souls home, helping them understand their true identity and where they can find true happiness. My dear King, Lord Krishna continued, I therefore give you the special benediction that you will always think of me. Thus you will be able to traverse this material world freely without being contaminated by the qualities. This statement of the Lord confirms that a person in true Krishna consciousness, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord under the direction of the spiritual master, is never subjected to the contamination of material qualities. My dear king, the Lord said, because you are a kshatriya, you have committed the offense of slaughtering animals both in hunting and in political engagements. To become purified, just engage yourself in bhakti yoga practice and always keep your mind absorbed in me. Very soon you will be freed from all reactions to such sordid activities. In this statement, it appears that although the kshatriyas are allowed to kill animals in the hunting season, they are not freed from the contamination of other sinful reactions. Therefore, it does not matter whether one is a kshatriya, vaishya, or brahmana. Everyone is recommended to take sannyas at the end of life to engage himself completely in the service of the Lord and thus become freed from all sinful reactions of his past life. The Lord then assured King Muchukunda, in your next life you will take birth as a first-class Vaishnava, the best of the Brahmanas, and in that life your business will be to engage yourself in my transcendental service. The Vaishnava is the first-class Brahmana because one who has not acquired the qualification of a bona fide Brahmana cannot come to the platform of Vaishnava. When one comes to the platform of a Vaishnava, he is completely engaged in welfare activities for all living entities. The highest welfare activity for living entities is the preaching of Krishna consciousness. So right there, basically teaching people about their identity, their relationship with Krishna, how they can find true happiness in life and go back to Krishna. It is stated herein that those who are specifically favored by the Lord can become absolutely Krishna conscious and be engaged in the preaching work of the Vaishnava philosophy. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 50th chapter of Krishna, Deliverance of Muchukunda. Okay, that was the end of that chapter, and we have a little bit more time, so we'll read into the next chapter. Chapter 51 is entitled Krishna the Ranchor. When Muchukunda, the celebrated descendant of the Ishvaku dynasty, was favored by Lord Krishna, he circumambulated the Lord within the cave and then came out. On coming out of the cave, Muchukunda saw the stature of the human species had surprisingly been reduced to pygmy size. Similarly, the trees had also far reduced in size, and Muchukunda could immediately understand that the current age was Kali Yuga. So as the yugas just continue to evolve through and get to Kali Yuga, so many things happen. The humans get shorter and shorter. Even within Kali Yuga, humans will continue to get shorter and shorter, and more and more hedonistic and less inclined to spiritual practice. Although in this current age, at the beginning of Kali Yuga, is what is known the golden age of Lord Chaitanya. Because Lord Chaitanya came, there will be, for I believe 15,000 years, maybe 10,000 years. Someone could maybe put down in the they know the exact amount, but I think it's 15,000 years. There will be quite a bit of people on this planet chanting Krishna's names because of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And that doesn't mean that Kali Yuga will get better. It just means that there will be more people chanting. And we have already seen that too, because there was practically, I guess 50 years ago, there was practically no one in the United States or Europe who was really chanting Krishna's names. And now it's all over the planet. There are people all over in different continents spreading Krishna's names. Therefore, without diverting his attention, he began to travel north. Eventually, he reached the mountain known as Gandhamadana. It appeared that there were many trees on this mountain, such as sandalwood and other flower trees, the flavor of which made anyone joyful who reached them. He decided to remain on that Gandhamadana mountain region in order to execute austerities and penances for the rest of his life. It appears that this place is situated in the northernmost part of the Himalayan mountains, where the abode of Narayan is situated. This place is still existing and is called the Badrika Ashram. In Badrika Ashram, he engaged himself in the worship of Lord Krishna, forgetting all pain and pleasure and the other dualities of the material world. Lord Krishna also returned to the vicinity of the city of Mathura and began to fight with the soldiers of Kaliyavan and kill them one after another. After this, he collected all the booty from the dead bodies, and under his direction, it was loaded on bullock carts by big men and brought back to Dwarka. Meanwhile, Jardsand again attacked Mathura, this time with bigger divisions of soldiers numbering 23 Akshahinis. An Akshahini is a certain number of different kinds of military, what they call phalanxes, of different kinds of elephants and chariot fighters and so many different things. So an Akshahini is a number of military formation or phalanx. Lord Sri Krishna wanted to save Mathura from the 18th attack of the great military divisions of King Jardsanda. In order to prevent further killing of soldiers and to attend to other important business, Lord Krishna left the battlefield without fighting. Actually, he was not at all afraid, but he pretended to be an ordinary human being, frightened by the immense quantity of soldiers and the resources of Jardsanda. Without any weapons, he left the battlefield. Although his lotus feet were soft as the petals of the lotus flower, he proceeded for a very long distance on foot. This time, Jardsanda thought that Krishna and Balaram were very much afraid of his military strength. Typical demons who are stupid. They get beat 18 times, and they did think just because Krishna left the battlefield that somehow they're scared of him now. He began to follow them with all his chariots, horses, and infantry. He thought that Krishna and Balaram to be ordinary human beings, and he was trying to measure the activities of the Lord. Krishna is known as Ranchor, which means one who has left the battlefield. In India, especially in Gujarat, there are many temples of Krishna which are known as temples of Ranchorji. Ordinarily, if a king leaves the battlefield without fighting, he is called a coward, but when Krishna enacts this pastime, leaving the battlefield without fighting, he is worshipped by the devotee. A demon always tries to measure the opulence of Krishna, whereas a devotee never tries to measure his strength and opulence, but always surrenders unto him and worships him. By following in the footsteps of pure devotees, we can know that Krishna the Ranchorji did not leave the battlefield because he was afraid, but because he had some other purpose. The purpose, as it will be revealed, was to attend a confidential letter sent by Rukmini, his future first wife. Ooh, here we go. Now we're going to get into some very interesting foreshadowing of things here. The act of Krishna's leaving the battlefield is a display of one of his 6 opulences. Krishna is the supreme powerful, the supreme wealthy, the supreme famous, the supreme wise, the supreme beautiful, and similarly, he is the supreme renouncer. So that's very important, because to know that, there are people who are powerful, very powerful, like dictators, but they may not be very wise, or they may not be very beautiful. And there are some people who, have other things. They might be renounced, but they're not beautiful, or they're not intelligent. So only Krishna has the 6 qualities in full. He is the ultimate source of power. He is the ultimate source of wealth. He is the source of the most famous, the most wise, the most beautiful, and the most renounced. Therefore, he's better than any great superhero on, movie screens. Srimad Bhagavatam clearly states that he left the battlefield in spite of having ample military strength. Even without his militia, however, he alone would have been sufficient to defeat the army of Jardsanda, as he had done 17 times before. Therefore, his leaving the battlefield is an example of his supermost opulence of renunciation. So Krishna always has a purpose to do things. He's perfectly capable of defeating all the demons at one stroke, but he has, means and ways of doing things that have reasons. After traversing a very long time, the brothers pretended to become very tired. To mitigate their weariness, they climbed up a very high mountain, several miles above sea level. This mountain was called Pravashan due to constant rain. The peak was always covered with clouds sent by Indra. Jardsanda took it for granted that the 2 brothers were afraid of his military power and had hidden themselves at the top of the mountain. First, he tried to find them, searching for a long time, but when he failed, he decided to trap and kill them by setting fires around the peak. He therefore surrounded the peak with oil and set it on fire. As the blaze spread more and more, Krishna and Balaram jumped from the top of the mountain down to the bottom, a distance of 88 miles. Thus, while the peak was burning up, Krishna and Balaram escaped without being seen by Jarasandha. Jarasandha concluded that the two brothers had been burned to ashes and that there was no need of further fighting. Thinking himself successful in his effort, he left the kingdom of Mathura and returned to his home in the king of Magadha. Gradually, Krishna and Balaram reached the city of Dwarka, which was surrounded on all sides by the sea. Okay, so I think we'll stop there and continue more about the story and what exactly happens. Thank you very much. Let's chant. So that's all for tonight. We'll see you for the next story. Namaste.